Welcome to the Worthy Revolution, a community of inspired, heart-focused, faith-founded, community-centered, success-minded women impacting the world through their mission, their business, and their stories. Hi, I'm Mimika Cooney and welcome to Worthy TV, the home of the Worthy Revolution, where women are impacting the world. This week we are talking about how to maximize your existence. Tasha Scott is a success connector and life coach for women in business. She's a serial entrepreneur, author, and Huffington Post blogger. She's the founder of the Don't Limit Me and Women Connect movements. And through her coaching programs, live workshops, and movement, she delivers life-changing messages, empowering women to strengthen their faith and their family while building a profitable business. Tasha's mission is to facilitate the journey towards maximizing your existence. So welcome, Tasha. Welcome to Worthy TV.
Thank you, Mimika.
So glad to have you here. Now, you and I have had the opportunity to chat several times offline, so I'm so excited to share your story because you have a really phenomenal story, very empowering and inspiring for other women out there. And you've got some great tools and tips you're going to be sharing with us today. So make sure, ladies, you take notes and you listen really good. So let's dive right in with a bit of a backstory. Tell everybody where you came from and how you got to where you are now.
Thank you, Mimika, for this opportunity. I always like to tell people that I got bit by the entrepreneur bug when I was in the 8th grade. I had a paper route, and I just knew from that moment that I was created to be an entrepreneur. Fast forward, I was working as a paralegal in my career at a law firm, and I just realized that I had reached the ceiling of where I could take that career. So I decided to start another business during that time, and that was Timely Task. That was actually an administrative support service where I basically said, I can do anything. I can clean your office. I can file. I can do anything you need me to do. And I was making money. I had clients. I even had people that were helping me, but I was all over the place because I didn't have a target market. I didn't have a niche in the industry. I didn't even have an industry, And what happened was a wise woman told me, she said, Tasha, you can be a jack of all trades or you can be a master of none. And she said, you really need to figure out what do you want to do? What do you want to specialize in? So out of everything that I was doing during that time, I saw transcription was lucrative. So I decided to go and enroll in court reporting school. So I went through school. 3.5 years later, I graduated. 6 months after that, I started my third business, which is Scott Real-Time Reporting. And it's a business that I'm still running to this day. And I have to tell you this, the first year that I started that business, I had tunnel vision for success, for making money. I hit the 6-figure mark because I chose to. I literally wrote it on my goal that I was going to do that. But what people didn't know during that time is I looked like I knew what I was doing. I looked like I had success, but they didn't know that there was a huge disconnect between my business growth and my personal life. In other words, I was a public success, but a private mess. And I went through this cycle of going from one extreme to the other to where I realized I need some help. So my first form of help, I got a mentor, and then I ended up getting a life coach. And it was getting the life coach that I really started peeling back the layers with help of who the real Tasha was. And I always like to say that it was when I started getting honest, that's when I really started understanding and starting to really perceive what true success meant. And that's when my coaching and speaking and my books were birthed because of me getting honest after getting help.
Definitely. Well, that is so true. It's like how many women out there are doing what we think we need to be doing based on what we think everybody else expects of us, yet we hide our true selves. We're not really being true to what we feel we should be doing. We have this internal struggle, and it's hard. I mean, you're eventually going to, you burn out of steam when you're trying to keep up the appearances, right? Like it's all good together, and behind it's a total mess. Yeah, I tell you, too many hot messes. So tell me about that moment of what you felt was totally transformational for you. Was it like the mindset approach? Take us through that process.
Sure. When I reached out to the life coach, there was a couple of things that were just really detrimental for me in my personal life. One, my marriage was falling apart. Two, we had filed bankruptcy. So you had the relationship, the finances, and then I had shame because of past mistakes that I made, some including from teenage years. And it was just a whirlwind combination to where I felt like a fraud, and I felt like I was cracking underneath the pressure of false expectations. So for me, I'm a reader, and I went on the computer looking through Amazon, and I ran across this book, and it was called The Emotionally Destructive Relationship. And immediately people think, oh, that's talking about marriage, but it was talking about every relationship in our lives, including the relationships with ourselves. So I reached out to that author, not knowing much about coaching during that time, but that lady became my coach. And the moment of transparency and transformation was when she started asking me questions. And this woman had no personal connection to me or anything, but I felt like she was safe. And so I started talking and sharing things that I hadn't shared with anybody. And even the point of my faith, she asked me, how are you and God? And at that moment, I confessed, I'm not talking to him. So what happened was, in her questions, she was asking me, it forced me to voice out loud where I was at that time.
Mm-hmm. So kind of having that accountability of someone pushing you out of your head, out of that mental space, because I think as women are notoriously bad for playing those bad tapes over and over and over, that somebody actually just calls it like it is and starts to, and it hurts, it's painful, but it's the only way you can move through transformation, right? Is to actually go through the layers.
That's right. And because I had to get out of avoidance mode and face my truth. And I also had to get out of blaming mode, because when I first went to her, I just knew it was everybody else's fault why I was in this state.
Yeah, it's kind of like avoiding the victim mentality, taking responsibility and saying, this is my life, I'm going to take it by the reins, stop pointing out, and also stop harping on the past, because I think the past holds us back. When we think we bring that baggage, we can't move forward, and so we got to point the finger towards ourselves, and it's once it's an internal thing, we can start moving forward. So totally agree. Been through the same process. It's totally painful, but it's totally worth it.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes. So you've got some tips you're going to go through with us. So let's actually give some actionable tips. Tasha's going to share some tips with us that you can actually take home that'll help you with your transformation. So let's go through those.
Sure. And I'll say that doing this work actually caused my business to grow, my personal life to get back on track. So I really believe in these tips. One of the first ones is I had to learn how to forgive. I had to forgive myself from the past things that I went through, like having an abortion when I was 15, making some poor choices that got me in bankruptcy, or, different things like that. I had to forgive myself, but I had to forgive others as well. One of the other things that I did is I had to learn how to speak positive, life-giving words over myself. I was so busy being negative and seeing the gloom and doom and everything, that's exactly what I got, was negativity. But I had to, on purpose, start speaking life-giving words over myself, positive, because what I realized is that I'm a magnet. I attract what I put out. One of the third things that I had to do was I had to learn how to ask for help. I realized that one of the biggest disconnects for me was that I was suffering in silence. And it was when I started asking for help through the mentors, through the coaches, then things started turning around, because I didn't have to hold it in anymore, and I could have a safe place to heal.
Definitely. Those are great. Totally awesome. So let's break it down a little further. So tip number 1, you said, was being able to forgive. Why do you think that's important, even as a business person?
Sure, because it's like you said earlier, when we hold on to unforgiveness, what it is like being in a prison. Being in a prison cell, the door is open, the lock is on, but we are willingly sitting in prison, withholding all the good from our life because we're trying to make somebody else pay. And what I had to understand was that if I don't forgive, I'm going to be constantly in this blame cycle of giving my power away to others, letting them determine and dictate how happy I am, how successful I am. And really, I have the power within me to be responsible, to be free. And I always say that even God himself can give us a promise, but we still have to agree and say yes to it.
Exactly. It's kind of taking the action, and again, it's the whole responsibility piece, right? Which is so true. And it's pretty much like visually, I can just imagine that every time we have this, we carry the baggage, we put it in our backpack with all these rocks. So by the time you're walking down your path, you're slowing yourself down because the weight is so heavy on you that it's just so much more easier just to let it go. And this always brings me back to the point that I like to share with my clients is business problems are usually personal problems in disguise.
That's right.
That we are, especially as entrepreneurs now in this day and age where, we are our brand, we are our business. Often if we have issues with our businesses because we either are holding ourselves back or there's some personal issue that's stopping us from growing, right? So, and then dig a little deeper in tip number 2. What was your tip number 2?
Sure. That was speak positive, life-giving words over yourself. And I've been listening recently that our words are so much more powerful than we realize, that when we start speaking things, for example, if I keep saying to myself, I'm sick, I'm poor, I'm I'm a victim, then what's going to happen is those words that I speak out, they're going to be in my mind. They're going to be embedded in my brain. And so my actions are going to start lining up with how I'm thinking about myself. And so all of a sudden, money comes to me. I won't be able to hold on to it. Opportunities come to me. I won't be able to hold on to it. And I just believe that there's so much more power if we can speak positive things out of our mouths. They will be a magnet for where we're wanting to be and what we want to do.
Definitely. I totally agree with that. I mean, and even you look at it from a cognitive behavioral therapy perspective, that even therapists will say, you need to change your thinking and then your actions, and then the feelings follow later. Yes. I mean, I know we've chatted about this before, where I don't feel like it today, I don't feel good, and we start saying those things, you actually start to believe it. So it's more than just like, hey, let's be positive, let's throw out some great positive quotes. It's literally is life-changing stuff. So totally excited. So let's go a little deeper with tip number 3. What was tip number 3?
Sure. That was ask for help, and I have in parentheses, don't suffer in silence.
Oh, us women are bad with this, right?
And for me, just using myself as a practical example again, I look back on the time, like when I reached out to the help for the coach, that I ran across her book, and then I went to her website and I emailed her. She became my coach. And I look back and I think, what if I would have remained silent and not asked for the help because maybe I was too proud to ask for help, or maybe I was too scared that maybe somebody wouldn't understand me or they would judge me or whatever. What if I wouldn't have reached out for help? I wouldn't be experiencing the freedom that came on the other side of that. And that was, my marriage was restored. My finances were got back on track because my business, my Scott Real-Time Reporting business, actually doubled. I was able to be a voice of help and healing for other women who were in the same predicament as me. In fact, that's where my movement started, was basically just me sharing my story of how I got free. People like you, meeting people like you, having wonderful opportunities like this. I look back and I think, what if I wouldn't have asked for help during that time? There's no telling, but I don't want to even go there, because I know the benefit of asking for help. And I know that if we can just get over ourselves, and sometimes it's not going around or above, it's going through the mess, we will see the freedom. We will understand our purpose. We will be able to help other people in the process.
And I know we've spoken about this before, that it's really, especially with the way God works, is that he puts you through things so you can learn and help people on the other side. Like sometimes we look at suffering the wrong way, that it's actually a learning experience, that if we can sort of reprogram the way we think about things and start to learn it, and especially when it comes to feeling like you're blocked. Right. You're at a stage where you feel like you're not passing through. It's like, okay, what lesson am I not learning? If I feel like I'm going around the mountain several times, what am I missing? Something is missing in the process, because you are constantly meant to be moving forward. And I think shame is a huge thing too, right? We haven't even talked on that yet, is how that shame aspect keeps us in that prison.
Absolutely. I always tell people shame says that I am wrong for who I am. And then guilt. Guilt says I'm wrong for what I've done. And when we are rehearsing the shame and the guilt for who we are and what we've done, we start to feel lower. We start to act lower. We start to withhold ourselves back because we think that there's no redemption for us. You know,
Like it's always someone else is going to do it. Oh, they, them, the lucky people.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh
not
yeah.
not necessarily that. It's those who are willing to step up and take the chance, right?
That's right. That's right.
Definitely.
And shame also brings confusion, comparison, all the other things. You don't just get shame by itself.
Definitely. Well, for those who are listening today, Tasha has kindly donated to this week's goodie giveaway, which is a copy of her new book, a digital version of Maximize Your Existence, worth $20. So if you want to be in it, you got to be in it to win it. So make sure to scroll below the video and enter our raffle cop to give away. It's only live for 7 days from when this interview goes out. So you got to go ahead and do all the entries, like, post, share, tweet. I'm sure you know somebody who needs to hear what Tasha's had to share today. We've got some great topics, as well as Tasha's masterclass that's within the Worthy Revolution for our members section. When you are a member of the Worthy Revolution, you get access to great training from masters like Tasha, who's been able to teach some great content. So if you're a member, make sure to go log in and watch Tasha's masterclass. And for those who are not yet members, make sure to join us. We would love to have you join the party. So as we sort of wrap everything up, what one takeaway tip would you want to leave the ladies with today?
Yes, ma'am. I would say it's the power of connection, that we are created to be connected. And it goes back to one of the points that I just mentioned about not suffering in silence, that when we understand who we are, the strengths that we bring to the table, we understand what the power of connecting our strengths with another person's strengths. And my hashtag is Connected Women Win.
Definitely. And that's the name of your Facebook group too, right?
It is.
So tell everybody, how can we get in touch with you?
Sure. I am on social media. My handle is at Coach Tasha Scott. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And my Facebook group that you mentioned is called Connected Women Win. And this is definitely a safe place for women in business who are ready to stop comparing, stop complaining, and start connecting.
And definitely, and your website as well. You've got lots of resources on your website.
Yes, which is TashaMScott.com.
Yeah, and for everyone who's watching the video, if you scroll below, we'll have all the information in the show notes. So definitely make sure you look up that and connect with Tasha online. So for all of you who are listening, if you've enjoyed today's content, go ahead and click to subscribe and share it with your friends. I'm sure you know a lovely lady who needs to hear about today's message. And if you want more freebie resources that we only share with our newsletter community, go to worthyrevolution.com and you can get an invitation to join our Facebook group, where we also have a great place for women to share their stories and connect for those entrepreneurial types who like to be able to run their own businesses. And share your comments, like what was your aha moment? What was your takeaway tip that you are going to take away from learning about what Tasha had to share today? So I'm going to say thanks so much for joining me on Worthy TV, Tasha. It's always great to chat with you, and I'll look forward to chatting to you soon.
Yes, thank you, Mimika.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.